Craig still here with ROKSTEDi, and this video is about cleaning and maintaining your ROKSTEDi bipod, specifically your Gen 2 bipod. This is a P234 that was used on all the hunts on our YouTube channel, on my deer hunt, predator hunting. It's been with clients. It's been through I don't know how many different shots have been taken off of this, real world shots, hunting situations. Yeah, I've hunted with it in 100-degree heat down to 10-15 degrees, snow, rain, sleet, rocks. I mean, pretty much everything that you could imagine. It's been cleaned up because I've been utilizing it for stuff in the office. However clean you think that action on your rifle should be is how we look at the bipod, how it needs to be cleaned. With that being said, again, this thing's been through the mill. It's had dust on it, mud on it. It's cleaned up now. They will function with dust. We're based out of Arizona. I hunt a ton in Arizona. Crap gets dusty here. Probably more dusty here than anywhere else in the world as far as from a western big game hunting and predator hunting. All you need to do, take canned air or compressed air. If you want to start with that as your first step, blow it out, all the crevices, blow it out everywhere. Then take a dry rag, wipe it down. If you want to whiten out the legs, wipe it down there. Loosen the bowl, wipe down the bowl, wipe down the Picatinny lever. Okay, so I'm going to start with the upper and then we'll go down to the lowers. Once I get to that point, it looks fairly clean. You can go a little step further, use a Q-tip, Q-tip it out. If you want to, you don't have to. From there, we like to use dry lube. This is WD-40 dry lube. I like the smaller cans. Dry Lock makes a nice small can. There's other companies that I'm sure make smaller cans. This big can kind of is a little messy, sprays all over. But basically this sets up, and when it dries, it just leaves that nice thin coat. It's not going to attract dust like you would with regular WD-40 3-in-1 oil, or your gun oils are going to attract dust. You want to refrain from anything attracting dust as much as possible because it's gonna get dusty. We just don't want to make it worse. So I just come in the top, hit it there on the latches, anywhere where the mechanisms are, the latches for stowing, hit it there, the inside, dry lube there, just a little bit. I take and adjust the bowl. A little bit on one side, adjust it the other way, can it the other way, do it there. Then I'll take and loosen the tension lever, and I'll just move the bowl around. Then the pan tilt lockout pin, I'll put a little on that, and I'll operate it a few times just to make sure everything is lubed and cleared out. Then I'll lock it up. This doesn't give you a time for it to essentially dry up or cure out. On some of the other stuff, it's a couple minutes. So once that is lubed like that, I will let it sit. That's the upper side. I also might go ahead here and spray the Picatinny attachment, and even on top. Okay. Now I'll go to my Gen 2 legs. And I'll extend them all the way out. Obviously, sometimes if you don't get this upper one torqued tight enough and you go to loosen this one and it's torqued tighter than that one, it will loosen this one, the first stage. So you just have to make sure that this is torqued tight more than the bottom section or the second stage, and then you're good to go. Take and wipe these down, free of any dust and debris. Okay, If I want to take off the rubber covers, I'll do that as well. Make sure there's not any dirt or anything in there. Probably wasn't, that's why I got them on there to begin with. Just pretending here. Once I got it wiped down, you can do this simple option here. You can just right underneath the first stage collar, or right where the carbon fiber disappears into that collar, just take and put a little bit of dry lube, and then go to the second stage, a small collar, do the same thing, and then I'll take and operate those just to where it gets lube, that dry lube up and in there. And then I'll lock them out and I'll let that set up. While that's setting up, the upper looks like it's good enough for this video. You may need to let it sit a little bit longer. I'm going to wipe off any of the excess lube, and then I'll operate the latches. When you're operating the latches, it'll push out any of that extra lube, and it'll lube it up nice and good. So about got her licked. Now the lowers, I'll take and wipe them off after I ran them up and down. Take and lock them in. So now this bipod is actually working perfect. Nice and smooth. But if you get in a situation where you have a little bit of leg chatter, say it's in this upper, and what I mean by chatter is just, it's not quite as smooth as what you think it should be. It's bouncing a little bit. It still operates perfectly. Everything is great, but it just kind of, it's got a little chatter, a little bump in it. You might have some dust, debris, and maybe a little carbon fiber dust inside of that. So you can take, it's a small Allen key on a metric, most metric multi-tools. It's a 1.3 millimeter. On all four of these collars, there's 2 set screws. So let's say it's this upper leg that's doing that. I'll loosen this upper collar, then slide it down, and take and loosen the leg, pull the leg out slowly until I can see the aluminum. That's the internal leg lock. And once I get about halfway out, you'll start to see that there's 2 lines, or 2 what we call tabs in there. And those are the 2 loose pieces. Everything else is connected to the tube. But those 2 tabs, if you don't pinch them like this, they can fall out, go rolling on the ground, and it's not the end of the world, but you will have to reorientate this and then get those tabs back in place to where it's like a cylinder, just like this. So it's a lot easier if you just keep them pinched in place. I'm just wiping off any dust or excess stuff in here. You can take, again, you can take a air compressor or canned air, spray up there. Then once I wipe this off, maybe spray that tube out, take and spray a little bit of this dry lube in there. I might let it set up, but for this video I'm not going to. I'm just going to go ahead and stick this back in here. When you stick it back in just to where the aluminum disappears, and then tighten the leg or lock the leg. Slide your collar back up. One thing I almost forgot to show you guys is once you do loosen that up on the set screws, take a little bit of glue Loctite just a little dab on those set screws before you tighten them back down. And again, just to where it's snug, I'll wipe off the excess Loctite. Make sure my collar is tight, no wiggles, not coming off, it's not moving. Then I'll loosen my leg, slide it back up, and now I got a smooth leg again, no chatter. Very simple and easy to maintain. I would recommend, if you have any chatter on your lower leg section, or you got some dust or debris in the lower leg section, is make sure you keep your upper leg section intact, and then with the upper leg section intact, the internal leg lock intact, then you can take off the lower leg section and do the same process with the lower leg section. It has the same parts, it has 2 tabs, but they're smaller. It just simplifies the process, and you won't have a bunch of different tabs and parts laying out, and it makes it very, very simple. That's how you maintain and clean your ROKSTEDi GEN2 bipod. It's very simple, they're very durable. Obviously the carbon fiber legs, you don't have to worry about anything rusting in there. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is the spike feet. These are roughly 2 1/4. On the GEN2s, they go up in the tube. We made a change from the GEN1s to make the product better, because on some of the GEN1s, we had a couple guys knock those off. So we made these to where they went inside the tube, and then they have 2 set screws, okay? The reason why these spiked feet are so awesome, paired with, specifically if you pair them with the rubber covers. I know some guys want rubber feet, and that's fine. But the reason why we designed it this way is after using multiple different bipods on the market, and no matter what leg lock they had or leg mechanism they had, we wanted to keep our legs out of the debris and dirt. When I was hunting with this last year, specifically on my deer hunt, I was getting up to here in mud and dirt. And these keep your tubes out of that mud, dirt, and debris, so the bipod can function the way it was designed and intended to function. On other bipods that I've used, I've had that same scenario, and then it gets crud in there, and especially on aluminum and other steel parts and whatnot, you may get rust, you may get debris that scratches that tube, and you don't want that. So that's why we designed them that way. And these rubber covers are replaceable. You won't want to look for cracks or whatnot. If you're like me, you're going to run them until they fall off. They're 10 bucks on our website. Very cheap replaceable part that work awesome. So they function great on slick surfaces. So now you don't get any sliding. And these work great. The spike feet work great when you're in that hard soil that you need to get a bite on, so you can get the legs to bite, and so you can load the bipod, and so the bipod feels steady. So last thing I will go over is the Picatinny adjustment attachment, and this is critical. Not all Picatinny attachments, most of them, there's variances in the machining process from manufacturer to manufacturer, and you can even get it from the same manufacturer to where you're just a thou out of differences. So when you stick our Picatinny attachment on there, that adjustment screw, you're provided this 2mm Allen key, is right here. We do not Loctite those from us. I highly recommend you use blue Loctite. Don't use red, because red is a son of a gun to get out. Blue is going to lock your Picatinny attachment up. But whatever hunt you're planning on going on first or next, whatever rifle you're going to use on that hunt, and whatever rail you're going to use on that hunt, stick that blue Loctite on that adjustment screw. Run it out so you get a fair amount of blue Loctite on there, and then snug up your attachment. So now you have no play. I like my attachment. We don't have per se a lock on here, but I've never popped this off. If you run blue Loctite on it, the only time I've ever had an issue is when we were in testing prototypes, is I wasn't running blue Loctite and they would work themselves to where they eventually, depending on how much you used it, work themselves a little loose, so you had some play in there. So make sure you run blue Loctite on that, and that blue Loctite should do you fine for adjusting to different rails throughout the season, but you're not going to hurt anything if you throw it on a different rifle and you adjust that again and put some more blue Loctite on it. Make sure you put blue Loctite on there. It'll save you a lot of grief, and you are ready to go with your ROKSTEDi GEN2 bipods. How much you maintain it, clean it, is up to you. If you're meticulous about it, you'll probably get a lifetime of use out of these bipods. If you're not meticulous about it, if you throw it in the mud, throw it in the dirt, and you treat it worse than your rifle action, you're probably going to be calling us with warranty issues, which is fine. That's why we're there. But if you're meticulous about it and you take decent care of your gear, it's going to last you a lifetime.